Oh, yeah, oh, yes.
All sit wrapper.
Yeah, anywhere.
Sit right there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Is that live right now?
Yeah. If you want to kill it, you just
We'll kill it.
Okay, one more time, folks. If you can make your way to your seats, we're limited on time this evening, so the more time you take now, the less time you have to talk. Okay, we're waiting on Carly. I think she stepped into the ladies' room real quick. It's been a long day for everybody, so we'll cut her some slack on that one. Folks in the audience, want to point out that we do have some drinks from the meal left over, as well as some cookies. Please help yourself to those. Make them go away, because if you don't, we're going to have to eat them. So I will go ahead and get started because Carly's already heard all this. So first, I want to thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. We have a compressed schedule this evening, so we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to hand it over here in just a second to Kent and let him take over the process. He's going to moderate this evening and move us forward. The candidates are here. I would ask just a couple things. Please be courteous of their time and the fact that they are here this evening. They don't have to do this. We are very thankful that they are here to talk with you, to meet you guys, and to listen to you. So thank you very much, candidates, for that. Residents, as always, we appreciate your input. So I would encourage you after tonight, even though we are interviewing them formally tomorrow, you got a couple days, compress your thoughts, send them to your council member, send them to me, and let us know what you're thinking, and we'll take that into account. So they went on a tour of the city today, took them all over the place. So you may have seen me driving around like I was lost for 4 hours. So yeah, thankful they are here. So I will turn it over to Kent from Clear Career, and he can take off running from here.
Okay, the officer that's over here, he's not here because of your driving skills today. Yeah.
And make them green.
Sure.
And they should pick you guys up.
Okay, good evening. Thanks for joining us this evening. We are looking forward to your comments and questions this evening. As the mayor indicated, we're going to adjourn at 8. And the reason for that is we've got a full schedule tomorrow with interviews starting at 8:30 in the morning. And we need to make sure our city council and candidates get a good night's sleep. But my name is Kent Myers. I know a number of you from being involved in the last recruitment when Dennis Baldwin was hired. And so we had a great process a couple of years ago. This time, we've had I think a kind of an enhanced process where your city council has been very involved throughout the last couple of months in identifying what sort of community you are and specifically what type of city manager you want for Morgan's Point Resort for the future. And so they've been actively involved in putting together the job brochure, the questions for the interviews, and the tour and various other steps in the process. We actually started this a couple of months ago, and we went out for applications, and I wanted to let you know we received 40 resumes for this position, which is higher than normal. Normally we receive around 25 resumes for city manager positions. But in this case, 40 applicants came forward, and I think that speaks highly for the community, though. Our applicants usually do a lot of research and on the internet and newspaper, and actually do some site visits. And they don't apply for a job unless they think it's a good community to work and live in, and a good city council, and finances are in shape and so forth. So the fact that you attracted 40 interested applicants is a testament to the city of Morgan's Point Resort. So what we, again, have done, what we did after we received the resumes is we selected our firm, Clear Career Professionals, narrowed down the field to 8 applicants. These were people that had the experience, had the education that you were needing. And then we did interviews video interviews with 8 semifinalists. And following that process, we provided some recommendations to the city council on finalists for the position that they wanted to interview. And they had selected these finalists about a week ago. Following the interviews tomorrow, what the city council is going to do is next Tuesday night, there's a special meeting where they will start talking about the candidates and make a tentative decision on Tuesday night. And then they will instruct the city attorney to help them negotiate a contract with that preferred candidate. And if that negotiation is successful, then on April 14th, the city council will meet again and hopefully approve a contract with the new city manager. Normally, it takes the city manager 30 days to relocate, start their job, give their current employee notice and so forth. So you could probably look at the new city manager, if everything goes on schedule, starting around mid-May. And of course, that's subject to change depending on the negotiations and so forth. So we're excited about the process so far, and everything's gone real smooth. Jimbo has been very, as you know, very easy to work with. And you also had 2 city council liaisons that we worked with very closely, Bruce Lionheart and Roxanne Stryker. And so these were really good in providing us input through the process. So we want to thank them for their work over the last couple of months. I'm done talking because I really want you to hear from the candidates more than anything. What I'm going to ask them to do is just give a brief introduction of themselves, and then we'll open it up for questions. I'll moderate the questions. And on your questions, I just ask you to ask them to all 3. When you pose a question, let all 3 of them respond. Don't direct your questions to just one person, and that would help the process. And again, we're going to try to allow time for every one of you to ask at least one question, but we want to try to get done by 8 o'clock. So, and then I would ask the candidates to try to be concise in their response to the questions so we can hopefully get through as many questions as possible. Okay? So we're going to start at this end, and we'll start with John, and then we're just going to sit down and keep this informal, I think, and if that's okay with everybody. And so, John, you want to start, and then we'll just go down.
All right. Well, as Ken said, my name is John Benson. I grew up or originally born and raised in Iowa. I've been in city government, starting in the Kansas City area and working for a county and a suburb of Kansas City in the community development, city planning side of things. Following there, I became a city manager in Southwest Missouri in a small community there. And then in February of 2020, became the city manager, started as the city manager in Beeville, Texas, which is down by Corpus Christi, if you're not familiar with where Beeville is, another smaller community in the state. My wife had influence on that. She's a native Texan, having grown up in East Texas over near Tyler. And so we have family here in Texas as well. That had an influence in coming to Texas. My background has been, as I mentioned, community development, city planning initially, and then I did I don't want to say a career shift, but evolved in my career to city management, having worked in water projects, planning, development, comprehensive plans similar to what's going on here, implementing those plans, parks plans, capital projects dealing with the roads, sewer, water, park improvements, city facilities, things like that. So my education-wise, I got my undergrad degree in city, community, and regional planning from Iowa State University. And then I went back to school later in my career and got my master's in public administration from the University of Kansas. So very happy to be here. It's a beautiful community. Everything I've read about it in the job brochure, but and also just doing online research, it really doesn't sell the community until you see it. It really is just, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a council chambers that looks out like this. So this is absolutely beautiful. So.
Okay, thank you, John. And next will be Carly.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here this week. I'm really honored to be one of the top three with these gentlemen. I have a loud voice, so if you missed that, I can repeat it. But yes, I'm really happy to be here. My husband and I don't live too far away, so it's been an honor to kind of come spend a couple days with you all. We'll be back tomorrow. My background, Texas A&M, so I'm an Aggie, and I went for architecture and political science, then I went to law school in Houston, made my way into the public sector, been the director and over public utilities, public works, streets, parks, community development, economic development, and everything between finance, and made my way up to city management. I'm currently at the city of Taylor. Prior to that, I served city of Midland, city of Bee Cave, and my hometown, which is the city of Burnett, which is not too far from here. So hometown area, and I'm really just proud to be back in my hometown region, and love this place, and I'm happy to be, like he said, looking at this gorgeous view with you all tonight. So looking forward to your questions and getting to know the community better.
Okay.
Carly Pearson. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Michael.
Hi, my name is Mike Delmore. I'm an MBA and a CPA. I've spent the majority of my career in private industry. I've worked in private equity. I worked for Fortune 500 companies. I've helped mom and pop businesses out. And I decided about 5 years ago, I wanted to give something back to my life. You know, a lot of my focus was on money because that's what you're paid to do. But, you know, I felt like as I was growing older, you need to be more service oriented and giving back. And I really felt like I went to the right city. The city manager reminds people that you're there for the residents. You're there for the needs of city council. And those two groups sign your check. It's not the quality of your work always. Sitting behind a laptop all day doesn't give you the entitlement to your paycheck. It's being able to serve the residents and give them what they need. And so with that, in the city I've worked for has been very successful. It's grown its assessed property tax valuation from the last 10 years from 1.6 billion to 7.4 billion, which is sort of unheard of. In the last 2 years or 3 years, the bond rating's gone up 2 upgrades. So it's been the council working together with economic development, with planning, with finance, and the city manager and the residents to give the people what they need. And when that works out, you go, well, this is really cool. Now, how can I go to another community and maybe give them some of that and work? And I know it's different here. It's a resort, not focused on necessarily industry, but I do believe some of the things I've learned in that city can be employed here. And speaking of audits, we get our audits done in February of the year. You know, the requirement statewide is March. The city is one of 12 cities in the state that's got the 6th Transparency Award. And we're flourishing financially, not just from an economic standpoint, but from a reporting standpoint. And the city's 80% minority. 10 years ago, when an ambulance went out on a job, you don't know if the ambulance was going to make it back. Sometimes the ambulances broke down on the street and they couldn't fix it. So I've gone from that to prudent fiscal management to the point we're at now, and I've learned a lot through that. So I'm hoping, if I'm hired here, to be able to give back to the community and employ some of the things I've learned elsewhere.
Okay, I think y'all can tell, we've got a great group of candidates to bring forward for the city council's consideration. And I know the city council members will be talking to some of y'all over the next couple of days before they make any decisions. Again, no decisions are going to be made till next Tuesday. So make sure after today's session that you talk to your council members and give them your input. I think that's very important to the process. So with that, we're going to open it up for questions, and the mayor has a microphone, and you can stay seated and he'll hand you the microphone to ask your question. We'll start with this woman on the front. I remember you from last time.
I just have a question to one person. What city are you from? You didn't say.
I'm sorry, I'm live in Dallas and I work for the city of Lancaster. I'm the CFO at Lancaster. My apologies.
Okay, we won't count that as a question. Thank you. That's good. Good clarification. Okay.
Oh, as per usual, if you ask a question, just let the panel know who you are, please.
I'm JoJo Guzman, longtime resident's been here since 1994. Everybody seems to know me. So my question to you all is, how do you view the role of city manager when balancing the voices of us residents, city staff, council, and mayor?
Okay, we started this evening letting Michael go first, and then we let John go first. So Carly, you want to take that one first?
Sure, that's a great question. Sure, that's a great question. So how do you balance all of those things? Well, to me, the answer is very complicated in what we do as city managers as far as all of the things we have to do to make sure everything continues to run smoothly, working with all the departments. But the answer is simple, is every single one of those groups either lives here and or serves here. So we're all a community. And if you approach every single thing that we have to do, even the difficult things, as city managers, as council, it all comes down to we are all a community, whether we work here, whether it's a resident, or whether it's an elected official, a former elected official. We all cycle back around in a town this size, and we have to remember that and just be present for the community. And that includes all of us. So if it means working long hours, if it means facing tough times, if it means fixing things together, you have to listen. And sometimes there are going to be complaints, sometimes there's going to be kudos, but I have a saying, in city management, we hear and use the term stakeholder a lot. Well, let's get the stakeholder engagement. Well, to me, in my experience where I'm from and what I've done in city management and city administration, everyone who lives and serves here is a stakeholder. So that's how I approach my job and everything about it, the difficult days, the fun times, the long council meetings, and everything in between. Every one of those groups is a stakeholder. I approach them all the same.
Okay, Michael, you want to tackle that one next?
Yes, thank you. Your question's wonderful, and on the side, I've taught some courses at Stephen F. Austin and UT Dallas on public government in the areas that I have the expertise in, which is the issuance of bonds and budgeting. And we do case studies to get the students involved so they're not listening to lecture. And your type of situation is what I give a case study on. You know, you have these needs from citizens. They want hike and bike trails. They want a new fire station. On, and you give them like $50, $60 million worth of needs, but you only have 20 million to work with. Now get in your small group and decide where those monies are gonna go and why. No right answer, but it comes back to what she was saying and everyone else, is that the stakeholders, the residents, give their input, the city council gives their input, and somehow you come up with a common ground so that your priorities are met for the community. And hopefully with enough voice from everybody, you're getting the right priorities, just like that small group would. Because at the end of the day, there's not money for everything. Let's be honest. There's gonna have to be some hard no's, and you're gonna have to have some reasons why, but where you spend your money should make sense, and it should make economic sense, political sense, and social sense. So I think there's no easy answer to that, but as long as you're meeting the collective priorities, I think you win in the long run.
John?
I'm going to follow along with the stakeholder. Residents are all stakeholders, and the council obviously as well, in the role that they play, they're obviously residents as well. I'm going to go a little bit different approach to it, and it's not that I disagree with what's said. I agree with what's been said. On the request from a resident, is it a big project? Is it the streets? Is it park improvements? Is it creating a downtown, or is it trails, things like that? Those require big dollars. Those take literally years to become reality. And those are important things, and those are part of strategic planning that are vetted by the council. Putting together, staff's role is to bring that together and let the council discuss it and prioritize those with community input. And I think one of the things that there's a mosquito or something flying around here. I'm not just swinging at the air. Working through those projects to prioritize, and then obviously how do we fund those things to make those reality? The other part of that is, in my experience, is it's a resident concern about a simple thing that doesn't cost. It's not a major project. In other words, it could be a car that's been parked on the street that hasn't moved for 4 days or something along that line. How do we work through that? And that doesn't necessarily need to go through a council to prioritize. That's just staff being responsive, whether that's the police department or property code enforcement or whatever department it may be. It could be a water leak and things like that. So those are all, and it doesn't matter if it's big or small or what it is, it's the responsiveness. And I think, going back to what's already been said, we're all here because we're civic minded. The private sector, and I've talked with staff when I've been involved in interviews, working for the city is different than working in the private sector. The private sector isn't necessarily the driving force, is not the community mindedness. There's private sector companies that are community minded, but their bottom line, it's a profit. Cities aren't in for a profit. It's quality of life. It's community, what's best for the community. And so in that context, we're all, working for the stakeholders.
Okay, who wants to ask the next question? Jimbo's all ready.
This is the person that brought me the key lime pie.
Oh, okay. Don't expect a key lime pie.
I was gonna ask.
How about pecan pie?
I do have a sense of humor.
Grits is what you asked for first.
Oh, shrimp and grits, okay. What am I, up here? Oh, okay. I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know about these
Only
things.
because we're streaming and recording for those who can't attend, so.
Oh, okay. I want to ask each of you if you would move here if you're city manager.
Okay, once again, great question, and we'll start with Michael. We're just going to kind of start there, and then we'll go back to John, start next time.
I don't think that's a choice. To be effective as a city manager, you have to be engaged with your residents, engaged with your city council, and you can't do that remotely. So yes, amen, I'd move here. And I think it's so important to have the community outlook in hand. And one thing I didn't say on the last question, if it's okay, when I think city managers and finance people and councils fail sometimes in talking to residents. We think that you understand the structure of a government where there's a general fund, an enterprise fund, a water sewer fund, there's operating expenses, there's capital expenses. I think when you ask for monies in a certain area, the city management and the finance people need to explain where those monies come from and how we replenish and how it's paid for, because an answer for one is not the same answer for another one. And often city management is under the impression you understand where these buckets come from and what levers to pull. And I think we have to do a better job educating the public on a request, how it would be funded.
Okay, John?
I'll definitely would move here and live here, and who would not want to live here? But no, and to echo what was just said is, as a city manager, I've always firmly believed you have to live in the community in which you work. These are your dollars, taxpayer dollars that I'm in charge, along with the council, in charge with. And so, and beyond just from that standpoint, but also if you don't, I've lived in a metropolitan area and worked in a suburb, not as a city manager, but as a department head. I live 25 miles away, or 20-minute drive away. Had friends in that community, but I didn't connect with the people in that community because I wasn't there at night. My wife and I didn't go out to eat. We didn't shop in that community. I ate at lunch, and we went to community events, but we didn't live there. Since then, we've lived in smaller communities that I've talked about or referenced earlier. To this day, we have lifelong friends from those communities we still stay in touch with, even though we don't live in the same community. In Kansas City was the metropolitan area. We don't have, other than family, we have no lifelong friends from that community, even though that population is obviously much larger. And I think that's the benefit of living in a community. I would argue the smaller the community, the easier it is to make connections, lifetime connections, and get to know people in the community. Because and I know you don't necessarily work here, but some of you do. Some other people, I met somebody earlier tonight that lives here, works in Belton, or works in Temple, and I get that, but you still come here, you're still in the community, and it's those anecdotal connections and interactions that are very important, because as a city manager, those help inform. And then to the point you just made that's where those conversations of the general fund versus capital improvement fund versus the water fund and enterprise funds, of how those dollars work. Previous city I worked on, we had a finance committee, a citizen finance committee, and there was a bank president on that committee. It took him 6 to 8 months before he fully comprehended that you can't take utility fund and wrap it and move those dollars into the general fund to pay for something else. But you can take the general fund and supplement, and it's just understanding those nuances. It takes time, so.
Okay, Carly?
I'll echo both of them to start. One, yes, you have to, be in your community to be effective, and who wouldn't want to live here? So I'll answer that in two ways. One, my husband and I are both very small town people, and Georgetown is not small anymore. So I don't think I could make it fast enough for us to get back to a small town. So you'll probably be seeing us here regardless of whether I get the offer or not, because we've fallen in love with the Belton and Morgan's Point Resort area. But yes, I also think that just being from such a small town, it's part of being in the community, and also being in city management in a town of this size before. There are things that go wrong. I was talking to Chief about this earlier, and you've got to get up in your robe and go down there. And you're going to meet all your staff down there. I'll see all of you down there, and I have to be there, and we all do. And so that's another piece of it, is that in a small community, you have to be willing to show up, whether it's long hours or a late night call, or a disaster. You just never know what it's going to be, and you do need to be there. Plus, we get to do the fun things. I was talking about Christmas earlier, and some of the things we get to do to just get to know the kids in our community and our families. So yes, definitely.
Okay. That's time for next question. Who wants to volunteer to ask the next question? The city council is going to ask all their questions tomorrow, so don't be looking at it by then. All right, Donna?
Hi, I'm Donna Hartman, and we've lived out here since 1977. Very active members of our community. We love it. We're from San Antonio, so we're big town people, like Carly was saying, and they can't pry us out of Morgan's Point. Several have tried, really. Y'all have really tried to get us out. But my question to you is, it sounds like you're from bigger communities and bigger areas. What is the draw? And you had a little tour of our city. I know you've researched our city. What is your draw? Why is it your desire to serve us as your city manager?
I think, John, it's your turn to go first, isn't it? Yeah.
So I've worked in my career, I've worked in a community of 30,000 in population in a metropolitan area. I've worked for a county as a planning director in a county in the same metropolitan area. And I've worked in a community in Southwest Missouri as city manager of 7,000, or approximately 7,000. And then most recently in Beeville, which Beeville's about a little over 13,000 in population. I go in context to the population of Morgan's Point Resort. Beeville may seem like a large city. It's not. At 13,000, it's not a big city. It has similar issues. A town of 7,000 obviously is smaller than Beeville. Similar. Those communities are facing the same issues Morgan Point. Roads, water, to some degree water issues, sewer, parks. Those are all, and when you boil all that down, that's all quality of life. You want good roads, you want water, when you turn the water on, you want good water, even when you flush the toilet or water goes down the drain, you want it to go down and not pollute the lake. And you want good parks to enjoy, or for your kids to enjoy, trails, all those things. That's what drives me. Beyond that, I'm going to say 30,000 is not a large city. In the scheme of things, it's not. It's not Austin. It's not Georgetown with 100,000 or whatever the latest census calculation is. Those are very large cities. As you get into larger cities, as they grow, city managers and department heads become much more specialized, because you don't have time to become generalists. I was talking to some city staff. Small towns, you wear multiple hats. You do different things. You work as a team to cover the basis to address the concerns that a resident raises, whatever that concern may be. You work together as a team. Larger cities, and in my experience, you become more specialized and segmented, and this is your specialty. I don't like that. I get bored. That I will get bored over time. That'll keep me good for a few, whatever year, 2 years, or whatever number. But I like the variety of work. I like, yes, there's times when it creates more headaches because there's different things you got to wrap your brain around, but we work as a team, and that's what really draws me. Now, I don't mean to diminish the beauty here. That's actually ancillary, because without having the work, this is nice to look at, but that doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't keep my mind active. That's relaxing, and it's a great work environment in that sense, getting to see that. But, and then thirdly, having worked in the different cities I've worked in, and the reason I'm no longer in Beeville is the council changed through election cycles. And it went from a forward-thinking council, which I would equate from what I know of this council is forward-thinking. And I think that hopefully you all agree with that. The staff is good staff from everything I've learned and talking with staff. And Beeville, that council election cycles through 2 cycles, they lost that forward-thinking. They became much more day-to-day business oriented. They weren't forward-thinking, and ultimately, that's what led, I left Beeville. I didn't get fired. I chose, this is no longer the right spot for me. So I chose to leave there. And beyond that, having a council and a community, I'm not hanging just on the council, because I've read in the comprehensive plan, the community input. Those are forward-thinking comments. Now, how those get executed, what gets executed, or can we afford to do those things? Those are the details to work through and the priorities and, figuring that stuff out. That's what excites me, and that's what, in a bigger city, you may have those projects, but you don't get involved to the degree you do in a smaller town, and that's what attracts me.
Okay, thank you, John. Carly?
So I've worked in cities, similarly, I've worked, somewhere of this exact size, and I've worked in a city, like currently it's 17,000. I've also worked in one that was about in the middle of that. And he's right, they have very similar challenges, but everything is unique. And the one thing I found with all that is the largest one that I've been in, I wore the most hats because it was falling apart. And that's okay. That's my job as an administrator, is to put it back together no matter what size the city is or no matter what council is serving. And so I like those challenges, but I will say my heart is with a city of this size. It's the city that I served that was this almost exact size. When I served there, it was my hometown. And so knowing everyone in the community and being back to see the impact, you can see that in larger cities. And that's wonderful too. I love serving any community, but being in a small community where I can know everyone, work with my staff, wear those hats, stay up there, do the planning if I have to, write the comprehensive plan if I have to. It's one of those things that it's what we're trained to do, and you get to do it all, and you get to know everyone and why you're doing it, and that's much different than doing it for Samsung in Korea, and they come in once a quarter and say, thank you. That's a very interesting experience too, but I think my passion is with communities of this size, and that's what attracted me here.
Okay, thank you, Carly. Michael?
I think my answer to this is very similar to a conversation I had with a friend before coming here. And he asked me, he goes, what's the population of Morgan's Point? And I told him, and he goes, he's from North Carolina. And he said, that's very similar to the size of the city I grew up. And he asked me the same question, what's the appeal? And I said, in a smaller town, when someone gets sick or there's a death or something happens, the people rally and they send a thank you card, or they go, how can I help? You don't see that in a larger city. I mean, you may, but it's more common here. And I noticed talking to people in the social piece that the council members that are here want to run again. There's stability there. The employees that are here, they're here because they want to be here and they want to help. So I think it's that culture that's appealing. On a physical basis, I'm a runner. I like to be outdoors, and you have a beautiful environment here, so that's appealing too. But I think at the end of the day, it's the culture and the people, and then the belief that given the things I've learned in another city, I can employ them here and use that background to help those people. That's the thing. I think I agree with the other candidates. when you're in a large city like the city of Dallas or city of Fort Worth, it's very segmented, and you do a certain thing and you do it all over again every day, and you don't get that variety. I think a candidate here that's been in a smaller city where you've worn many hats, if that city's 30,000, 20,000, 10,000, it doesn't matter when you come to a city side. You can employ those things you've learned because you've been exposed to all facets of city government. And I think that's very important. You need to know the zoning, you need to know code ordinances, you need to know how to build a budget. What happens when someone gets pulled over for a police stop? You know, all of those things are important. You don't see or hear that from a candidate, but it is important. And you're not gonna know everything, believe me, in city government, it's impossible. And the more time I spend in city government, the more I realize I don't know. So it's the humility, knowing that what you need to learn going further too.
I'm Andrea Henkin. Oh, thank you. This is the first time I'm using that thing, but I'm loud enough. I'm Andrea Henkins. This city loves to communicate. You will figure that out once you're here. We're actually a lot of people here. We think we walk up to city council and the city manager will come out and talk to us without an appointment. How do you communicate? How do you communicate on a small level with individual citizens? And how do you make the administration communicate? And how do you deal with it when your communication does not work? When despite, I didn't get this message, I didn't get this. How do you deal with it practically? How do you get the city communication on track? So,
Carly,
two questions in one.
your turn to go first.
That's one of my favorite questions. Thank you for asking it. So I did public engagement for a very long time, and I love it. And my husband's going to laugh in the back row back there, but I love civic engagement so much that I am grateful when people come and yell at us at council meetings because they're there. And people don't understand that they're there because they care. I'm okay getting yelled at. They're there. We get a 12% voting turnout in most places. Thank you for showing up to council. Thank you for coming to see me at my office. Thank you for coming to see staff. That's how I feel. And I think that's infectious on my staff. I think that's infectious on volunteers and other citizens because I really actually do want to hear it. So if you come to City Hall or council chambers, I'll come out because I want to know why you're there. I want to hear what I can do. What is the concern? Or, you know, maybe it's just a complaint. Maybe it's an idea. Maybe it's a compliment of a staff member. I just am so grateful when people come and in any facet at any time of day or night are involved in civic government and what we do. I happen to love what I do. I love it. I love every part of it, good and bad. And so when people get involved, even if they're angry or upset about something, I have another saying, which is, and it sits on my desk, it says everything is figure-outable, because I honestly believe that when you work together in a small community and you listen and people show up, they're there because they care. And so the way I approach it is, I mean it, and I'm always available. I think my staff sees that, and so that's something that I have an open door policy to the nth degree, and I think that also is how I manage my departments and my administration. And that's in everything. So whether it's volunteering, whether it's an emergency situation, whether it's regular council meetings, or just any given day, inside and outside of office hours, I appreciate citizen input. I appreciate the service of the elected officials, and I mean that with every single being, you know, part of my being and what I bring to work. So I'm always available for that.
Carly, Michael?
So I think, without saying, communication is probably the #1 priority in a city manager's black book, if you will. And communication is listening, right? You have to understand the problem from whoever you're communicating before you can give a solution. And you often see people, here's the solution, they don't understand the problem. So not to say that I'm the best at it, but the approach I try to take is listen, and then this is what I think you said to me. Is this the problem? Do I have it right? Communicate back. And then you've shown the listener that you're trying to understand what they're saying, you have a common ground, and then maybe you can then help solve it. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to agree with them or give them what they want, but at least you understand the problem, then you help to solve it. I found in working in private America, people aren't going to come to you if you keep saying no to everything. So no, sometimes has to be said, but you try to give people alternatives. We can't do this, but we had this option, maybe that's something you could pursue. So rather than keep saying no, I look for solutions in ways that may meet that person's goals and needs. The other thing, and she so articulated it very well, but in the city management role and getting with community, you have to be available on the weekends, after hours, social activities. If there's a parade, my city manager forced us on a Friday afternoon to pick up trash, and these were all senior people in the city. And I'm going, why am I doing this when I have other work to do? Well, it's social involvement and giving back. And when the residents see you picking up trash, maybe they won't throw it out the window anymore. Well, that didn't always work, but it was a good idea. But and then, you know, if there's a parade or something, and this Saturday, the city has an Easter egg hunt, and we'll be there for the kids. So it's going to those events not because you're forced to, because you want to be there and engage with the community, because that's as much as a job as just doing your regular work.
Michael, I saw some of the employees worried that they were gonna be picking up trash next weekend.
Well, I'll be there with them.
Okay, go ahead.
No, my community planning background and community engagement, and it comes informal, you know, in the comprehensive plan. You guys did focus groups and surveys, and that's part of it, and those are important. The day-to-day operational, I have an open door policy, whether that's literally face-to-face or over the phone, in recognizing there's times that somebody comes in looking for me, I'm in a meeting, I'm not available, you know, but having somebody like, he's tied up until then, and schedule an appointment, you know, and be willing to meet. I really, looking back, I'm happy to meet in my office. What I also like is meeting out on site. Go to your house. If you have a problem with something on your street, whatever that problem may be, meet out there so you can show it to me. And then as was just said, sometimes the answer, I'll tell you no, but hopefully I strive to be able to explain why. And sometimes the answer is no today because of finances or whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean, you know, down the road, we can come back and do that. The example that comes to my mind was we had one neighbor complained on another neighbor because the neighbor did good and they trimmed their bushes around their house and some tree branches, which was great. It's what you want from a good neighbor. But then that neighbor took all those branches they had trimmed and piled them up in the back corner of their property with this big mound, what we don't want. And they got a letter from the city and they were mad. I was a department head and they came in and they were mad at me because the person that reports to me sent them a letter and they weren't happy about it. And once we explained, you know, I went out and this is one of those times I came out and talked, and there was a fenced in back, the yards were fenced in. Said, okay, and his point was, this is 1 yard. It's not bothering anybody, it's not even up to the height of, you know, it's just equal with the height of the fence. You can't even see it 2 yards over, you know. You have to, even the neighbor can't really see it. And when we explained it to him, said, okay, not disputing that, you know, I'm not gonna go there. But what if your neighbor on both sides and the neighbors beyond did the same thing? How would your neighborhood look? Oh, yeah, that wouldn't look good. Okay, and instantly, it was a set conversation and being on site that changed it. And he's like, the letter gave him 10 days or 15 days to correct it. And he's like, well, I'm out of town this weekend and I work, and can you give me to the following weekend and I can do it? It's gonna take me a couple weeks. It's like, yeah, as long as you're making progress, we're good, you know, and yeah, we can work with you if you're working with us. And it's just those anecdotal interactions. I know that's a kind of a random example, but that's going back to the question before of in smaller communities. You don't get that when you're a city manager in Austin, Texas, or Georgetown, or larger city, Kansas City, Missouri. They're not there to do that. They won't do that. And they miss out, unfortunately, on those interactions. And then, as was said earlier, the community events are great anecdotal times, interactions, whether it's picking up trash or just whatever the interaction may be. The other thing that I've always done is also, and I don't know that I haven't done my research on Morgan's Point to this degree, but if there's a civic organization, a Kiwanis Club or Rotary Club, I like to be a part of those because I find that's where those interactions, that's also where I can give a presentation, give a city update periodically. And given that's relatively in the scheme of the whole population, that's a small segment, but it still is a touch point, and usually you get fed, you get a good meal, so.
Okay, thank you, Ken X. This good-looking gentleman on the front row had a question.
I just want to thank Jimbo for setting this up, and also thank Kent and your company Clear Career, because you've done this before for us. So you are the one making our city successful. And again, looks like you've brought 3 good candidates again to our city. Now, my only question to the candidates, I think out of the box, is do you country western dance? And have you ever danced at a wedding called the Grand March?
Okay, there we go. So, Michael, I think it's your turn. 2 questions.
Well, if I told you I could dance, my nose would get real big because I'd be telling a lie. But I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, I can try, but it's a little bit more difficult when you got 2 left feet. No, but thank you. Your question is one of culture too, and it means more than what you just asked. It's, you know, are you sociable? Can you get along, let your hair down and mix with the people, I think is what you're saying too. And yes, I can definitely do that, but it'll be with 2 left feet.
Okay. John?
I don't distinguish between country western dancing and other dancing. I do dance. It applies to all types of music. And my wife, I saw her face when you asked that question. She cringed, but fearful that you were gonna ask like the Grand March. And so I've never done a Grand March, to my knowledge. I don't believe I have.
You would remember.
Okay. I danced in the train through wedding receptions and other things, but yes, social wise, yeah, you know, and, yes, so.
Okay, Carly?
Honey, have you ever done the Grand March?
Not to my recollection.
Okay, I think he just does, is it the 12-step?
The 20 step.
20-step, okay.
Commonly done to Brooks and Dunn Neon Men.
There you go. So I love to dance. You can't get me off the dance floor when country western music is on, but I will say that I don't hold a candle to that guy back there. So he and his entire family can line dance me out of the building. So yes, we will dance, we will country western dance, and I'm pretty sure someone in the family has done the Grand March. So looking forward to learning it if we haven't.
Well, congratulations to the 3 candidates. None of them danced around the question. Oh, really? I mean, seriously, yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Okay, we got about 10 more minutes. We've got probably time for 2 more questions. So, yes, sir, gentleman in the back.
Mike Hankins, once you know how to dance, the only difference is the beat. If it's a polka, whatever. I'm retired Army, and every morning, everybody picked up trash. It's called police call. And that's where I learned if there's a cigarette butt on the ground, it will have babies if you don't pick it up. I picked up the trash on the whole street where I lived, and the next day there was more trash. So I have a question about people who would work for you. Have you ever had a person that you had difficulties with, and how do you go about working with that problem?
Okay, good question, John.
So, short answer is yes, I've had difficult employees. In a conversation with the mayor this afternoon, he was giving me a tour. We didn't, not this specific question, but we talked about, you gotta have the right, for an organization, you have to have the right people on the right bus. And that's a cliche statement. And they also have to be in the right, willing to be on the right seat. And I worked with people that aren't willing to get on the bus. And ultimately, and then additionally, people that are willing to be on the bus, but they want to choose the seat, and that's not necessarily good for or the right seat for the organization. So when I came to Beeville, I was coming in knowing I'm going to be an instigator of change on cultural organizational culture, and in some cases, reorganizing some roles and departments. And so one thing we did was I had an executive team, and we all read, I bought the book for each of them, Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if anybody's familiar with that book. It's about 25 years old. I had read that 20-some years ago, bought them all the book, asked them to all read it. A week or a few days later, we met. I asked them what they thought about it. They had never read the book, and they all liked it. And then I explained why I had them read it, because that book is about change, and there will be change. You can put your head in the ground, and it's still going to be change, and so you have to anticipate it, and you don't always know when it's going to occur or what that change is going to be. But they all agreed with that, and so then the next step we did, the city had the money to buy that book for every department head and supervisor, and we had them read it. And I take that back. And then we had, I'm sorry, I misstated that. We had every city employee read that. And then myself and another person working with me, we met in what I'll call a focus group, supervisors and department heads, and then all other employees. And we asked them, we had some series of questions of who did they identify with, why, what did their takeaway, things like that. I was actually surprised, because I thought, you go in like, oh, this is the right answer. This is the answer, and if they don't get it, they're wrong. And, was I wrong? Because the department heads and supervisors identified with the person I thought was the right person. All the other employees identified with somebody totally different in that book, and I know if you haven't read the book, that's probably not making a lot of sense, but there's I forget him and Hall, and I forget the other character names, but the book is about two mice looking for cheese. And all of a sudden, they're used to it always being in that same place every day. And all of a sudden, the cheese is not there, and what do? How they react to that. Anyway, we went through that, and then as we met with them afterwards, I explained why we did this exercise, and because there will be change, whether I'm the cause of it as a new city manager, or residents are the cause of it with phone calls, or the economy, or whatever other factor. I had our finance director had a problem employee. She read the book. The finance director had been talking to me about her because it just wasn't getting her. We met with her. She goes, oh, I love the book. It was great. I really enjoyed it. But I'm not going to change. And that was the best answer. She saved us so much time, because at that point, it was like, it doesn't matter what you work with. You put her on a performance improvement plan, or keep working with her, mentor her, all those things. It doesn't matter. And so this wasn't the right career for her. And then also, the sooner we made that decision, the sooner that's best for her. It's good for the organization because we move on. She's not in the right job anyway. It's better for her to move on sooner and find that right job. And she was able to. So my point to all that story is sitting down and talking to them. Now, reading a book is a little bit of an extreme, I'll give you that. But working through them, setting the expectation. Here's what not just your job role, but here's the organization, the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization, what the core values are. And the core values are really driven by the employees as a whole. And how do they align? And if they don't align, then it's mentoring and working through them. The other part of that is the career planning. I'm big on talking to employees. I mentioned earlier in interviews, finding the employee that wants to work for a civic organization, a public entity, because there's a just a fundamental difference wanting to work in that role versus private sector. If somebody's in it for the money, don't come working for the city or a public entity. You're going to make more money working in the private sector. And knowing that, and that's not always easy to do, find that out through an interview process, but finding that out, and then finding out what are their career goals. Where do they want to be in a year or 5 years down the road? Where do they want to get to, and how can we help them get to that? And that may be a job that's in the finance department today, but eventually that's in a totally different department or a different organization. And if we can help them progress and they leave the city, we don't want to lose our employees if they're good, particularly if they're good employees. But if it's ultimately a career goal for them, we don't want to hold them back. And if we can help them, and my philosophy is, if we can help employees achieve their career goals over time after time, all of a sudden that's word of mouth and people want to come work for the city because they know we're going to help them get to where they want to go. Now, the pay, and the fundamental thing is the pay, but the pay is what it is with the public sector. So, sorry, I apologize, that was a long-winded answer, but.
Okay, all right. Carly, thank you.
Well, he's right. You do have, you have to wear a lot of hats, especially in a small and growth communities. And sometimes you just have people that don't want to wear a lot of hats, and you only have limited funding, so you have everyone else wearing all these hats and working long hours, and you do have to make sure that it's a level playing field. My big thing is mentoring, though. If it's burnout, why? Can we reallocate you? Can we, can my passion rub off on you? Can we rebuild your interest? Can we, put you in something or community-minded, service? So my big thing is that, try to mentor people and really work with them and try to get the best out of your staff. If we're working for a city, we're not in it for the money. If we're working for a city, we're not in it for short hours. We're in it for public service. And so you want to try to engage with those staff members who are struggling, mentor them as best you can. And ultimately, if sometimes it's better for them, to go on a different path, you will come to those experiences. I certainly have in the past before, but my big thing is for a path for progression. So day one, I meet with every single staff person, and then I have bi-weekly meetings with them, not just as department roundtables, which you kind of lose that direct contact, but I'll keep direct contact with my staff. Hopefully that prevents burnout or, prevents people from becoming disengaged or re-engages them if they have been. And then if it is best to move on, you do have those difficult circumstances, but mine is a path of progression for sure. That's my style.
So I think the overwhelming quality between a city manager and residents, a city manager and direct employees, and the whole organization is trust. So it's so important to meet with direct reports, all employees, and let them know that you care and listen to their needs. What are you not getting today that you think you should be getting? How can I help you get there? What bottlenecks do you have? Because if you can eliminate the bottlenecks in their job, these are my obstacles. At the end of the day, it comes down to just them being able to complete it. Because you've eliminated their obstacles. Now is your heart and soul in it where you can complete. And the other thing I think in an organization you don't see enough of is complimenting when a job is well done. And it can't be, not sincere, because people recognize that. But that goes a lot longer way than just money. People come to work to be recognized for their job. I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and looks in the mirror and says, I'm going to go to work today and I'm going to screw up. They want to do well. So give them the platform to do well in a group. And I think as a leader, they have to understand the goals for the city. And council has to communicate to the city manager what the goals of city council are. What is the strategic plan? And then it all flows down to the employees and how do we all deliver together to meet the needs of the residents. It sounds easy on paper, but it's the simple qualities of listening, trust, communication, and loyalty and praise. I work for someone that can be a perfectionist, and you don't get many opportunities for praise, but when they do come, you go, wow, she actually liked that. So it means a lot, It has nothing to do with pay. So that's my answer. I would try to use that mix of things in the toolbox to make the culture and people feel wanted, that they come to work and want to achieve and do the right thing, not only for the department, for the city, but for the residents.
Thank you. I think it's about 8 o'clock. I want to just make a closing comment, and then I'll turn it over to Jimbo and see if he wants to say anything. I served as city manager in 5 different cities over a 45-year career. I'm currently the city administrator for the city of Starbase, which is Elon Musk started in South Texas for his space launches. Was incorporated last May, so I'm the city administrator there. One thing that I really enjoyed about this recruitment is I did the recruitment a couple of years ago, and I got to come back to Morgan's Point Resort through this recruitment. And I've seen a lot of positive changes. As an outsider coming back, I've seen a lot of positive changes in the last couple of years in terms of your finances, the morale of your employees, the teamwork between your city council and your employees. So it's been just a remarkable progress over the last couple of years. And I'm coming in from the outside based upon my experience, but also what I saw before. So I think that's a credit to your mayor and city council, but it's also a credit to Dennis. Dennis Baldwin has done a great job for your community. I think most of you agree with that. And we talked about citizen involvement and citizen input. If you get it, I know Dennis is stepping out in the next 30 days or so. If you get a chance, stop by City Hall and just tell Dennis, thank you. I think he would really appreciate that. He's not one of the guys that likes, a lot of credit and a lot of publicity and everything. But I think he would really appreciate it if each of y'all would just take a few minutes, stop by and say, Dennis, thank you for the job you've done. Because from my standpoint, he's done a great job for Morgan's Point Resort. So I'm going to stop there. That's kind of a little preaching, but I'll turn it over to you, Jimbo.
Okay, yeah, we'll wrap up first. Candidates, Kent, again, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your time. Look forward to tomorrow, so maybe a little bit of a warm-up for you tonight. Residents, thank you all for being here. I know some of you had questions that you weren't able to ask. I know some of you had a sheet of questions, which I'm good with. What I would encourage you to do is send those questions, if you weren't able to ask those tonight, send those to your council members, send them to me. We can carry those with us tomorrow during the interviews. They won't be asked. I'll just tell you that up front. Your questions will not be asked tomorrow. Council has a very specific set of questions that will be asked. However, it might encourage council or trigger something in council's mind to just kind of listen for something that addresses one of your questions. So I would encourage you to do that. If you don't have questions, we encourage your input. Please, please, please. I told staff this today. We want your input. Understanding that those 5 individuals that are seated around you are the ones that make the decision. But provide your input. We want to hear from our residents. We want to hear your thoughts, and we will move forward from there. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you all very much for being here. We'll see you guys in the morning. Try to get some rest. And yeah, good night all.